So here we go. I want to start some videos on leadership. It's cut a really long story short. It's all to do with I want to start my PhD in leadership in the next year or two, and I want to do as much studying as I can and research as I can prior to starting. Make it a bit easier. I want to do as much qualitative research as I can, and then eventually I want to do lots of quantitative with many different countries around the world, which I'll get into and I'll talk about in future. But I thought I'd give you a little bit about me. I just in brief, it makes things easy to understand as we go along. I was born in Brazil, given up, adopted by an English couple, had a lot of identity, behavioural, mental health issues when I was growing up as a kid. I had some major issues. I'm sure I'll go on to them at some point. My family, how that's dissolved in passing of my dad. So my dad died, 11 years ago. Issues with just difficult having a relationship with my brother, with many different reasons. My mum's remarried. I went back to Brazil in 2012. That was interesting. Messed with my head a lot. It was all to do with football. I ended up not. I finished my incredibly shit career while I was in Brazil. I have done a lot of construction since, working in construction, enjoy construction, want to start a development company, so many things I want to do, specifically or more so in Brazil. I do quite a lot in the UK. I want to do a lot in the UK, but what I really want to do is help as many people as I can in Brazil. So I've got big plans for construction in Brazil. I also do a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been doing that a long time now, But I'm getting old, so it's getting quite hard. I wanted to talk a bit about, I'll get onto it eventually at some point, but it's to do with why I obsess over leadership as a study. It's partly I've always loved leadership as a study. Always wanted to try and understand it. I think I was probably about 9 years old. I remember going into my mum's room at 3 in the morning and just saying, Mum, why don't all the Indians want to be chiefs? And she was like, what are you going on about? And I couldn't understand why you had a tribe full of Indians. Why didn't they all want to be chief? Why were they happy to settle for not being chief? Why? He was born into it, but he might be crap. Why don't they want it? I couldn't understand it, and it was one of the questions I asked as a young child. And I've always been a question asker, query everything. I also am an obsessive pattern maker. I think this came from issues to do with adoption, and there's loads of issues that come with it. Not everyone has, but I've got a few different dissociative and identity stuff, and there were a lot of coping mechanisms. There's a lot of coping mechanisms, but one of them was obsessive pattern making and taking things apart, reassembling them to find how they work, how to figure things out, common themes, concepts, and my brain has always done it. I remember when I was a lot younger, I watched maybe 8 of the best chefs in the world videos on YouTube making omelette, and I took everything that they did in common and you could tell some of them were just trying to be different. And I would say, right, what are the basic things that they all do that you need to make a good omelette? And then I squished it all together and said, right, this is the most important thing. Obviously, you need eggs. And then I found that to make a really good omelette, you have to have butter. And then it was just taking everything apart, putting it all back together again. I've done it forever. Problem solving. I love problem solving. I'm born to problem solve. So again, it all goes in with PhD, trying to find basically crack the code for leadership. That's what I want to do. There's a lot of literature out there. I've read loads, I've studied loads of it. I'm still going to carry on studying it, probably forever. But there seems to be not a lot of people can agree on it, and I want to get to the bottom of it. I'd love to interview some people, some leaders from all over the world, and just use that qualitative research to pick the bones apart and see what everyone says, what they got in common, what they haven't, and just try and just crack the code, essentially. I've got a lot of strange thought processes and think outside the box. Don't follow the grain, and I think that helps with theoretical thinking, philosophical thinking. So hopefully it will help. I mean, it's finding somewhere to do. My PhD is going to be incredibly hard because I'm finding that a lot of the universities that I'm applying to are, sorry, not applying to, but looking up, doing the research onto, they are very business focused. So they're all kind of leadership within companies, which personally, I don't think you can have leaders within a corporate environment. Again, that's one of my controversial opinions, something I've thought about for a long time, and I don't think you can. A leader will always do what they believe to be right, and I think if there's an issue where a leader doesn't agree with something and their boss says to them, you've got to do it, I think the leader will always say no and just walk down their own path. They might not scream and kick up a fuss, but they might just say, no, I'm not doing that, because that's what a leader would do. A leader will always stick to what they believe. A leader will always have confidence in their own decisions. Otherwise, they're not really a leader. And I think that's why a leader can't exist within a corporate environment where ultimately everyone has a boss. I think you can be a leader of a company if you own it, but I don't think you can be a leader of a company if there is anyone above you, because it will not work. There will come a day where it won't work, which is where I think the army cheats in that. And again, this is something else I want to discuss, but the army kind of cheats with it because it is a given that you will always follow orders. And yes, there are some incredibly good leaders, and I'm reading a lot of books at the moment from Sandhurst and different American leadership books. I think it's a very unique environment because you've got a lot of, when you go into the military, you are told from day one, and you're very aware from day one, that you are going into a very, very hierarchical, a pyramid of hierarchy, however you say it, of leadership, and you know that from day one. So I think it's kind of a bit of a cheat when it comes to leadership. It's not like a normal company, and people know that they have to be subordinate, and there is a chain of command. Whereas outside of the military, true leaders will stand up for what they believe to be right. You can't really do that in the military, because if someone tells you to do something, it might be for the bigger picture. So they might be sending you and your little group to your deaths, but you then say no, but then you cost 300 lives across the river, where they're thinking tactically that you and your 9 friends are going to die to save 200. So you kind of, in the military, you have to just do as you're told. So there are incredibly good leadership lessons from the military. Again, something I'm really studying hard at the moment, really find it super interesting, but it's a very unique environment, I believe, the military. I've got a lot of ideas. I want to discuss them. Like I said, I want to do some interviews. I want to get as much expert knowledge and information as I can from lots of very different backgrounds. Business, like I said, military, sport, academic. So I just want to get as many different opinions as I can and just study it. I love it. I want to share my passion for it, and I want to use all the information that I receive into my PhD when I do it. But like I said, finding somewhere to do it is incredibly difficult, because I think I've got a very philosophical look on leadership as a whole, whereas most universities that I've seen are very much focused on business and structural procedures of how to run a company, leaders within a business, which is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the leader of the high school football team and the leader of the local fire service and the leader of the local parliamentary group, and what have they all got in common, and are those skills transferable, and is there an ultimate thing as a universally great leader? Is it gender based? Is it height based? Is it stereotypes? Is it the perception of the followers, which is something, again, I'm massively looking into? There's so many questions I want to ask and get to the bottom of. It's going to take me a long time, but I love it. So I've got no problem in finding out and asking questions and trying to get to the bottom of it. This is the first one, so I don't really have too much to say. It's just a brief summary of where I am, what I want to do, where I'm going, and eventually I do want to get a massive, like I said, library collection of interviews and information, and I will be putting them all down on paper and putting them into reports and different articles that I want to write about all the different expert opinions. But for now, just a brief intro. From here, we'll see what happens and see what comes up, and I will see whoever is watching this. Probably no one, as it's the first one, but I will hopefully see some of you soon, and I'd love to hear if there's anyone out there that loves leadership as much as I do, and the study of it. And yeah, it'd be good to get some different opinions and feedback, and yeah, get some questions. And if I do get some good interviews coming up, then yeah, send me some questions and I'll ask those people, because I just want to know the answers. So yeah, thank you. See you again soon.